Hello again. Now we're going to be talking about guided math. Okay, so guided math is small groups instruction with increased levels of difficulty. So if I were to tell you, what a daily math routine would be with implementing guided math, here's kind of what it would look like. You would start out with an introduction mini lesson if we're doing an introductory unit. We're going to tap into the students' prior knowledge. We're going to grab students' attention and hook into today's lesson. So it kind of starts as whole group instruction, but we'll get to the small group instruction. After the mini lesson, we're going to do a student work period where students do work on problems alone, and after that, we're going to do kind of a discussion, kind of talk about some confusions we might have had, and just clear up some confusion. And then that's when we get into our center work, and that's where we differentiate the assignments and the homework into differentiated standard-based centers. And I'll talk about those centers a little bit more. The goal for this is really for our students, the goal for guided math as a whole is for our students to become more confident with themselves, that they're not doing things that really are way too challenging for them or way too easy to where they get bored. We want students to become proficient mathematicians. And what our small groups are going to look like, they're going to be 4 to 6 students, and I, as a teacher, will probably only see 2 to 4 of these groups a day in my center. They're going to be grouped by need, and they're going to work on targeted concepts. Each station is probably going to be about 10 to 15 minutes each. It's probably going to depend on how my group does, how long it takes me to work with my group. These small groups allow students to work in their zone of proximal development, Vygotsky, activities tapped into individual learning styles, questioning students to give them an opportunity to talk, ask questions, and justify thinking. So in my group, I'm going to be asking them questions based on their learning abilities. And it really allows me as a teacher to reteach, reinforce, expand, and compact concepts. So if I know that this group really needs to work more on, say I'm in 2nd grade, more on double-digit addition than moving on to subtraction, then maybe I'm really going to work on that more before we move on. And other groups might be doing math and writing. Other groups might be doing math games, just games and activities that keep them busy and keep them focused, that all are within their abilities. Next, why should teachers use it and its benefits? I actually wrote down a quote from Lillian Katz. When a teacher tries to teach something to the entire class at the same time, chances are 1/3 of the kids already know, 1/3 will get it, and the remaining third won't. So 2/3 are wasting their time. And that's really so true when we go and we look at standard math. If we're just teach the whole class the same thing, have the whole class do the same activities, somebody's going to get left behind and somebody's going to be ahead. If you look at whole group to guided math, you're both doing one standard. Whole group, not differentiated. Guided math, differentiated. You set a goal for one large group, but with guided math, individual needs are determined with group and activity. Guided math, whole group, one lesson. Guided math, tiered lessons. I could go on and on. Some guided math, whole group, too easy or too hard for some, but guided math really challenges our students, but also the groups are always changing. So, if there's a student who was in a group and they need to move up, they can move up if they get their concept. Really, what's so great about this for teachers is that you're reaching all of your learners. You can differentiate it in so many ways, but it even pushes our own thinking. Honestly, when you go into a class, you're thinking about how to teach. More than likely, you're going to teach how we learned, how I learned. That's just kind of the first thought that goes in my head. Well, how did I learn best? I think that's just how I'm going to teach. But in reality, we need to teach to our students the way that they learn. So it challenges us as teachers to really get to know our students and their learning styles and to meet their needs. Next, what role does assessment play? effective assessment is really crucial to meeting the needs of all of our students. Understanding each child's mathematical knowledge, it really helps with utilizing our small group instruction. We have to know what level our students are at to put them in the appropriate group. We don't want them to be in a group that's too challenging, and we don't want them to be in a group that they're bored at. They need to be right in that group. And that comes with, as a teacher, observing my students and taking lots of notes. I'm always going to be roaming the room, taking notes on things that my individual students are struggling with, that they are really getting really well. They're understanding a lot faster than my other students, and just noticing how they're acting, how they're behaving, and just how they're taking on each individual concept. That way I know if they're ready to move on or not. I not only want to assess what they're doing in guided math, but I also want to be able to assess what they can do independently. What they can do in guided math with the scaffolding of myself and their peers is going to be a lot different than what they can do individually, because although I'm really promoting group work, at the end of the day, I want my students to be able to do this stuff independently. The group work is just helping us get there. So next, how do you train students to become independent and well-behaved? Okay, so I kind of took this question on as, I'm getting kind of late in the time, as how they're going to act in their groups, not squirreling around and really focusing, because remember, this isn't a whole group. I'm with one group, so I have two eyes and that's it. And where I know what's going on around, if they're squirreling around, I need to make sure that my students are being productive in these groups, so that way I know that guided math is being productive and it's not just a waste of time. So what I'm going to do is model these centers first, so that students are aware of what they're supposed to be doing, and that they're not getting to their station and being like, oh, what were we supposed to do? And then I know that there'll still be some confusion, so I think some picture instructions that shows us the step-by-steps to each of these centers would be really essential as well. So photo directions, that is just a visual representation, helps with all students. Also going to provide math discussions. So when they're in, what I mean by that is when they're in their centers and they're just playing these games that they love, they're going to maybe start talking about things not so related, they're just going through the motions. So here's where these task cards would come into play. This will promote math discussion, give them something to talk about and really think through their thoughts and decisions in these centers. Another thing is keep the routine the same, change the skill. I'm not going to have a different game every single day or every single time we do this. That just gets too confusing. At the same time, I'm not going to keep the same games. I am going to have a few different games. It's just that maybe a rotation of a few familiar games that the students really, really like and are familiar with, just so the students aren't confused when they're constantly having to learn a new game. Students are familiar with how to play these games, and they love these games. It's just there's a different concept in it, but they're familiar with how to play these games. So yeah, that's kind of my overview on guided math. A little longer than maybe it's supposed to be, but I really love guided math, and I think it's something that will definitely be implemented into my future classroom. Goodbye. Have a great summer.